Bonjour everyone, Pantoufleee here today for a new video in which we have the pleasure of talking about the Gravity game mode that just hit the game this morning. You may or may not see it yet, and with it comes a new and quite special ability called Thruster, which is basically something that will allow your tank to jump in the air anytime you want by pressing the spacebar if you're on PC, or click on the button, I guess, if you're on a tablet or a phone. This ability is not made for everybody, because if you take a look at the in-game patch concerning Gravity, it's only for light tanks, medium tanks, and tank destroyers. So the heavy tanks or the heavy branch don't have access to that ability. I don't really know why Wargaming decided to give it to every single tank in this game beside heavies, but hey, that's their choice and we're gonna comment on that, but later on during that video. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is how this ability changed the Gravity game mode. And in a good way. Let me explain myself. Back in the days, Gravity mode was more about being able to go fast thanks to the low gravity, but also being able to jump from time to time on different hills if you manage to arrive at really high speed, which is possible due to the fact that in Gravity game mode, thanks to the low gravity, you go faster. Now, what the Thruster ability changed and made really interesting in my opinion is that now tanks are not only fighting on the ground but also in the air, because most of the tanks you're gonna encounter in Gravity those days are tanks that want to use the Thruster, therefore light, mediums and tank destroyers. That's logic. I mean, we have a new ability that is made for only certain types of tanks, so every single player is going to try out those, which means that we're going to see less heavies in Gravity mode and more mediums, light and tank destroyers. And this is a good thing. This is a good thing because now it makes the game much more interesting when it comes to this game mode. Beside that, I felt like back in the days, Gravity mode was really looking like Uprising and all those kind of game modes, but now it really has its own identity in my opinion, which makes it really interesting to play. And beside that, let's say that when it comes to Gravity right now, the main goal is not necessarily to do damage or to be effective on the battlefield. I feel like Wargaming wanted to change that to something a little bit different called trick shots. Now, to me at least, Gravity mode is more about how I am gonna be able to do the best snapshot ever to a tank that is in the air, that I'm trying to shoot from a distance, or me myself being in the air, being able to shoot someone on the ground. And this is what makes the fun out of Gravity mode, this ability. Also, one more thing, you can troll quite a lot of people like I did right now on the Crandagon, because as you can see, as soon as he wanted to shoot me, I used my ability and poof, I'm straight going into the air. And that's what is lovely about this new ability Wargaming implemented. From a playstyle perspective, this ability changed one thing. It allows you to go closer to your enemies within the first 10 seconds of the game, like I'm doing right there with the RHM, because using the ability, you are literally gonna jump in the spawn of your enemy from your spawn. Because not only does it allow you to jump, it also gives you a speed boost, which is something insane, especially on tanks that don't go usually fast like the RHM, and it will definitely allow you to have some great and funny games. Now, what does it change concerning the playstyle? Because yes, having this kind of ability changes the playstyle a little bit. And it changes the playstyle because this ability is reloading itself fast. What I mean by that is when you use the Thruster, it usually takes 20 seconds without anything equipped, no epic boosters allowing you to decrease the reload time of those abilities. It's like the base ability that reloads in 20 seconds, which means that you can jump quite a lot within one game. And this is something you want to take into consideration while playing with your mediums and light especially. Because now you can play quite aggressively on the whole enemy team to spot them, use your ability to jump into the air, and once you're in the air, you're literally, I'm not gonna say invincible because people can still shoot at you, but it's gonna be quite hard due to the lack of gun elevation every single tank in this game has concerning your ability to jump. See, for example here, I tried to push the Emil, but the Emil used his ability to avoid getting shot, and it's gonna be the exact same for the Panther. As I shot, poof, he goes into the air, and that's what prevents you from taking too much shot. The downside, let's say, of this ability is that it makes game last longer, which is something I don't like, but you could actually like games that are lasting longer. It's not my case, I like when it goes fast, but It could be either a downside or a good side, depending on which side you're defending. Now, one last thing we should talk about concerning this ability, is it really something the heavies shouldn't have access to? Let me explain myself. If every single person in this game has access to that ability, or I should say every single class of tank has access to that ability, but the heavies, it means that every time you press battle with a heavy, you start with a downside. You start not having 100% of the abilities the others have. It's kind of unfair, and I don't really understand Wargaming choice toward that, but I digged a little bit and I find out something. In the current meta, the most performing tanks are the heavy tanks, and maybe Wargaming wanted to inverse that in gravity mode by allowing all the other types of tanks, what an amazing shot right there, but by allowing all the tanks to perform a little bit better than heavy tanks, maybe to test what the new meta is going to be about, who knows. But don't worry, tanks, or I should say heavy tanks, are quite competitive still in this game mode. The only thing is that playing them right now is really frustrating, because once you're fully loaded aiming at someone, they're just gonna jump into the air and you're gonna miss your shots. If you are facing tanks that can't use that ability, you should be safe, but if you can't, let's say that it's gonna be quite hard for you, and it's gonna be a little bit irritating once you get it 3 or 4 times in a row, missing your shots because of people's ability to jump. But in the end, I guess that something that made the heavy tanks don't have the ability, what makes those tanks avoid that ability, is simply that thanks to their caliber, when they shoot in gravity mode, they're going to turn the tanks over really easily. What I mean is, when it comes to gravity mode, the bigger your caliber, the easiest it becomes for you to overturn your opponents, or when you're in front of him, if you shoot him, you're going to make him angle itself and go into the air, etc., due to your caliber. And when you take a look at the heavy tanks, they have the perfect fit between a good caliber, which will allow you to make your opponent move and maybe get it out of tracks, and at the same time you reload quite fast, because with a heavy tank usually it takes you 10, maybe 12 seconds for the biggest reloads, or I should say 14 if we consider the 100. And that's maybe why Wargaming also wanted those tanks not to have this ability, because Wargaming maybe considers that they already have the ability to turn around the tanks quite easily due to their caliber. It's the same problem that we have with the Sheridan and the Sheridan missile, but unlike the heavy tanks, Sheridan missile is rare, let's say it like that. Rare, but not in gravity mode. Trust me, every time you're going to be in tier 10, you're going to fall on at least 2 Sheridan missile in both teams, which is a little bit frustrating. But hey, that's the game, and as we have an event running, we are going to see quite a lot of them still. This is what I wanted to tell you about gravity mode, guys, but from my point of view and from my perspective, really Wargaming, you did an amazing job. This new ability is what makes the gravity mode more insane than ever, the ability to do some trick shots, and it really feels brand new. And for that, Wargaming, sincerely thank you from the whole community and from the bottom of my heart, because we needed something to change from the current playstyle we had, and you listened by adding that ability, which really makes this game mode more interesting than ever. Hopefully guys you enjoyed. If that's the case, you know what to do. Feel free to subscribe, like and share, and I'm gonna see you soon for a new video. Bye.